Monthly. I'm a film critic, a contributor to Variety. I am so honored to be joined by our guest tonight. You all know him. Please welcome Gregg.
Hi.
So let's start with you getting the script and reading this amazing action drama comedy. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved. What was your reaction reading the Thelma screenplay?
I knew who June Squibb was. She did a movie called Nebraska 5 or 6 years ago where she was remarkable. And usually, because I've been doing this a while, and I kind of collect character actors like baseball cards in my brain, I was like, wait, I don't have this one. This is a June Squibb rookie card, even though she's been doing great stuff in New York and LA for decades. And so I was immediately interested when I heard she was involved, and I had just seen Fred, who plays my son, in White Lotus, and I thought he was really special. And so I was already interested, and then I read the script, and I just thought it was kind of like nothing I'd ever read. Funny and with a big heart, and really without trying to exploring some ideas that I think don't get talked about a lot, about what it means to get older and how you can still feel like you belong here and maybe have something big to offer.
And I'm wondering if you can actually open that up a little bit. What kinds of conversations that you and Josh Margola and the writer-director had? Because one of the things that really, stand out to me about Thelma are these two stories about, the oldest member of a family and the youngest member of the family are both treated like they're babies, and they have to both kind of accept their status in that family. So what was kind of his direction to you in that regard, the discussion about the themes?
Well, I mean, he doesn't seem like a first-time director. He's a pretty young guy, but that really wasn't anything I had to worry about. My job was to be a parent doing way too much parenting on a kid who was over 18. And I've been practicing for that on my poor daughter for 22 years. And she was very quick to point that out, that she should get residuals for the performance when she saw it at the premiere last week.
And I believe that Josh was inspired by his own grandmother.
His own grandmother, whose real name is Thelma. She's 103 or 4. That was her. You just saw her. She was scammed, but they managed to intervene before the actual cash was sent out. But he felt like, well, this is giving me an idea. and yeah, there you go.
Did you get to meet his grandmother?
I did not, which is weird because we shot all those scenes at Thelma's place are the real Thelma's house in her condo in Brentwood in Los Angeles, and we shot there a bunch, but I think she knew better than she knew enough to not hang around. It was just going to be chaos.
So then tell me a little bit about, working with June Squibb. Obviously, you loved her in Nebraska and other films. By the way, this Alexander Payne movie in Nebraska really is amazing. What was it like to, collaborate with her in this movie? And this is, believe it or not, she's been working for, I think, 7 decades, and it's her first leading role. What did that mean to you to be a part of that?
We were formed as a family. We had one little meeting with Parker and who plays June's daughter, and Fred and I, and we just talked about the things, what resonated for us, and what felt familiar and what felt different. And I hung around and had sandwiches for an afternoon, and that was it. And June wasn't there because really most of our stuff, she isn't there.
Right.
And we met on set and hung out on set, and we had done a table read. It's a thing they do a lot where, before you start, you read the whole script. It's weird because movie scripts don't read very well because there's a lot of visual descriptions, so they can be tedious. But this one wasn't. I laughed. They made fun of me. I laughed the whole time. I thought it was hilarious. And I was afraid because I was such a huge fan to me, the secret weapon in this movie, which is Richard Roundtree.
Yeah.
Who I'd grown up as a teenager in the 70s, as an 8-year-old in the 70s. I don't make myself any older, for God's sake. Obsessed with his movies and me and the guys I grew up with. So I could barely speak when I was around him, and we did this table read, and I was like, I really probably shouldn't say anything about how much I love Shaft, because he probably doesn't want to talk about that, you know. And then his tile comes up on the Zoom, and it's Richard smoking a cigar in front of 2 huge Shaft posters. And I was like, oh, cool, I guess I could ask him some questions.
Do you have any other memories about Richard? I mean, we lost him last October, and I'm sure that was just amazing in all sorts of ways to be around that.
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, it's remarkable what June has done and what Richard did, in that this is a low-budget movie that was shot in very few days, and so the pace is rather incredible. And you can't let down for a second, because you can't afford to let any takes go by, because they don't shoot many, and you might need the one you did. And the energy, just the endurance those two showed, just trying to get through that. There wasn't a lot of time to kind of grill him about his movies the way I wanted to, but I just liked being there. And I actually feel like, I can only say this because if it was me, I would feel this way. I feel like, as much as I hate that he's gone and hasn't been able to go on this part of the ride with us, I would love to watch him smoke cigars at Sundance, but that didn't get to happen. But I do think that the fact of his passing hangs over the movie in this really beautiful way because of what it's about, and it's almost like an extra special gift in his final performance, is it lends this really bittersweet beauty to me that was already in his performance, but got an extra zhuzh.
And you mentioned this earlier, you know, obviously you and Parker and Fred, you have your own storyline, and Thelma and Richard are on their own escapade. To me, this is what makes it a great LA movie. It's almost like you're getting 2 action movies with the price of one in the Valley. So maybe tell me a little bit about, you know, filming those scenes in the car and building that momentum and being a part of that.
You know, these scenes, my ex-wife hasn't seen these scenes about the ways, but I'm going to get a lot of grief for that too, because although I was always on the other side of it, there was a lot of tension in family car rides in our house in Los Angeles, where everything is up. You have to put your nav computer and try to figure out how to get to hyperspace just to get from one neighborhood to the other. But I was always the one saying, no, this stupid thing, it's going to tell me to take 91 turns to save 30 seconds. I don't know, Parker and Fred are just so good. And it felt very stressful, and I had a feeling that was going to be funny.
And, you know, June Squibb, I've heard her talk about this movie. She's done all her own stunts. And in my opinion, this makes it Thelma, a legendary action movie. It's really the action movie of the...
There's definitely only one like this. It may be the slowest moving action. And she's very proud of it. They had a stunt person there who was a little younger than 94, and this poor person just kept walking up and being sent back to the chair because I think I can do this. And she's very proud of her scooter work, as she has said repeatedly, and she speaks very proudly also of the bed rolls.
And the other point that I was going to make is, like, we see some footage from Mission Impossible, which, you know, like Tom Cruise, you know, like, is at the...
Tom Cruise was very impressed.
Do you know if he's seen the movie? Have you heard anything about that? Or do you even know how they...
He saw part of it, and he was so intimidated, he turned it off.
I mean, June Squibb is tough, you don't want to mess with her.
No. She's out there on Instagram right now, trash talking everyone in the bike riders, and every action movie opening this summer. She's calling them out, telling them she can kick their ass. We gotta calm this lady down. She might be co-starring in Mission Impossible 2.
This is actually
7, I don't know.
Well, she is calling out bike riders. You know, bike riders and Thelma are this summer's Barbenheimer. And you heard it here first. You can actually look online. kind of their footage of June Squibb pulling him out on her scooter. So maybe tell me a little bit more about working with Parker and Fred, since you have this amazing familial chemistry and some kind of grudges between the members that I think everyone who has a family will be familiar with. What was that like, building that with those actors?
Like I said, we spent very little time together, just this one kind of afternoon, talking and maybe reading. I don't even know if we read the scenes, I think we did. But Parker's just so great. And I was aware of her when I was first living in New York and first coming up. She was in this movie Party Girl, and we were all obsessed, and she was kind of the coolest person in New York, and I would see her at parties sometimes. And I met her a couple times, and I had friends in common, and I'd seen the incredible stuff she'd done in all the Chris Guest movies. I mean, Guffman is just such a spectacular movie. But I also know that she's really good at kind of mining comedy out of just real life and ridiculous, normal scenarios. And so I just felt immediately comfortable with her. And Fred is one of the wisest, kindest young humans I've ever met. I don't know, I was happy to be in their family.
Do you remember the most fun you had on set while shooting Thelma? Because it's such a fun movie to watch. I'm wondering how that kind of reflected on you as cast members.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of acting involved, but I have to tell you, the production of Annie, I think it showed so much restraint on the part of Josh Margolin, because that lady playing Annie, she had been waiting her whole life for this close-up, and she burst into a very sexy version of Songs from Annie that then veered into Spanish. Maybe it was the Spanish translation. It was spectacular. I wish they had kept the kind of shots of us just with our jaw. I thought Richard was going to have a sexual harassment claim or something.
Is there going to be maybe like a deleted scenes version?
I said to Josh, you're crazy. This should be, in the world of DVDs, this would have been the thing.
I want to ask you before I turn it to the audience and take some questions. You know, you have a really diverse career. You've been in, you know, all sorts of big scale movies and the Marvel Universe, and you're also in this indie like Thelma. I'm wondering if you can maybe reflect on how is it rewarding to you in different ways to be in a smaller scale film that has such a big heart, as you mentioned earlier.
I mean, it's a really good question. I mean, the budget of Thelma is probably the budget of snacks on the Avengers for 2 days. One day. Depends how many aliens are there. Those bastards eat all the snacks. Thanos, that son of a bitch. These are just easy jokes, I'm sorry. Look, in a way they're very similar, in that you get actors who you've always wanted to work with, and whether you're walking into the senior citizens home or the helicarrier, it's still a family trying to come together, you know? Thelma assemble. I don't know, I can't let go of the stupid riff.
Hey, throw in Louise.
Exactly. And so there's a lot that's very common, and there's also a way where a fight sequence on one of those films can take 2-3 weeks. And I think our whole movie was 2-3 weeks. So you really are telling more of the story in a given day. It's not a play, but it feels much more like, little small plays that you get to be in, do, and it's a little more focused, a little smaller, a little more intimate.
Thank you. Let's take some audience questions. I'm seeing a hand over there. Yes.
I'll repeat it.
Hi, I'm Matt Cascone from the Marvelous podcast. It's not really a Marvel question, I promise. It's about the movie. They say you can learn so much from our elders. What did you learn on set? From whether it was June, and I know you didn't really have screen time with Mr. Redtree, or possibly Ruben Rabassa, your fellow Marvel alumni. What did you learn on set?
So the question is, in the theme of the movie, what do you know, we can learn from our elders. What did I learn from them on set? I mean, I have to admit, I really I watch June. I just watch her. Because she's doing something that's, I feel like as you get older, as you do it for years and years and years, if you're like me, it's a never-ending process of trying to get a tiny bit closer to the thing. And I feel like that seems to be William James, this is going to get pretentious. William James wrote an incredible book called Habit, where he talks about how when you're learning to play the piano, your whole body's involved. And as you get better and better at it, your body learns what muscles to let go of that aren't necessary. And just to watch how you don't see her acting, and yet it's completely compelling and completely committed. And it's, I felt the same way about Richard. I feel like, here's a guy who's got a history of being a tremendous masculine figure to a community that hadn't been served in that way very well when he first on the scene. And it takes a great surrendering of the ego to be like, I am the beta dog on the back of this scooter to this badass woman. And so I think there's a lot to learn if you keep your eyes open from anybody, whether it's their first movie. Some of the kids I act with, I'm like, how is this kid doing this? It's infuriating. I need my money back from NYU. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, did you talk to Ruben at all?
Who did Ruben play?
He was Mr. Redtree's roommate. He was in Ant-Man 3 for like a quick second.
Stary Gary?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, not the guy he thought stole his scooter.
Comedy guy?
Oh. I mean, if he was in Ant-Man for a second, I didn't feel the Marvel connection. I wasn't in that one. I'm pretty sure I was dead by then. In some universe. In several, I wasn't. But we'll talk about that later.
Thank you.
Actually, that reminds me. Do you know what Josh's inspiration was for Stary Gary? What a great character in this movie.
I don't know, but I mean, that is a concept that found its perfect actor.
100%.
There's a lot of people who could screw up Stary Gary. They try to do too much, and the way that guy those were some of the biggest laughs last night.
Right, yeah.
When they cut to him watching the show.
Was he wearing a GoPro around his neck? It looked like he was kind of wearing like a GoPro or
I
something.
think now you're talking about his guy. Stary Gary was the roommate who just didn't say much, right?
No, it was the other guy who
someone saw my scooter.
His scooter. Like he had just like the very long hair in the back.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's take a couple more questions.
Let's do a speed round because we're running out of time.
Yeah, I see one man over there.
You talk about the lead scene. I hate to bring up the guy who's apparently an Ant-Man, but do we know if he gets his scooter back apparently?
Does he get the scooter back?
No, that guy actually is in a depressive wing of that because the scooter was. Yes. Yes, he gets his scooter back. Because then they eventually take off on the other one. I'm not a continuity person, but
it was left somewhere.
It was left somewhere. Yeah. Any other questions?
One last question we have time for. I see a hand all the way back there. Yes, you. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'm an emerging writer in a writer's lab with Laura Cahill, who's an old writer with Naked Angels that I think maybe you know of. And as a writer, like, what in the script from Josh, was something that you were grateful for that you could sort of pass on as like a tip for writers. That's like a good way he did something in the script that you appreciate.
Okay, the question is, as I work as a writer a lot, what about Josh's script do I think? I think so many things are remarkable about this, and that's probably why it's such a great marriage with someone like June, is that it's not trying to dazzle you, it's just gently telling the truth and mining every single scenario in it for all the humor that's there without trying to wedge something into it. And the restraint he did that with, and I think it's funny, you think of writing as a technical craft, but I don't know that your writing, no matter how technical your abilities are, can outdo your heart, and your wisdom. That's why people like you. You should also be having a life, not just working because this guy has a very, you can tell by his relationship with his grandmother, you know, what kind of person he is. And you see that gentle kind of honesty in the movie, but also I talk a lot about how I think this movie is very special for the reason I said, which is I don't think we pay any attention to people in the last 20, 30 years of their life. And I think it's a big loss on our part. And I don't think that's what he was aiming to do, and he never hits you, you know, there's no messages in this movie. You know, like it should just, June doesn't, you know, do some big speech to Fred. She just goes, I think you're gonna be okay, kiddo. I'm like, God damn, how does this guy this young know how little to do?
I think this is the most beautiful note to end the conversation.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Tell your friends, come back, bring your damn mom.
Can you sign yourself real quick? Thank you so much.